Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Lead BLM investigator blows whistle, exposing government conspiracy against Bundy family. The lead BLM investigator in the Bundy Ranch case has blown the whistle, exposing far-reaching misconduct, recklessness, and unrestrained antipathy toward the family. By J. Sermopoulos, December 16, 2017. Bunkerville NV. The Bureau of Land Management's, BLM, lead investigator into the failed Bundy Ranch operation that took place April of 2014 has blown the whistle in an effort to expose far-reaching misconduct, recklessness, corruption, and unrestrained persecutory behavior toward the Bundy family. The Bundys and other defendants are currently on trial for conspiring to stop federal authorities from confiscating family cattle after Cliven Bundy failed to pay grazing fees and fines for years. They're also facing charges relating to using or carrying a firearm in a crime of violence, threatening a federal law enforcement officer, obstruction of justice, and extortion. Their trial began November 14 in Las Vegas. The incident saw hundreds of armed militiamen, and others, show up to defend the Bundy Ranch after armed BLM sniper teams took up positions around the Bundy Ranch property. A damning memo from lead investigator Larry Wooten reveals borderline criminal operation carried out by the BLM. According to a report by the Oregonian. The memo comes from Larry Wooten, who had been the lead case agent and investigator for the U.S. Bureau of Land Management after the tense confrontation outside the Patriarch's Ranch near Bunkerville. Wooten also testified before a federal grand jury that returned indictments against the Bundys. He said he was removed from the investigation last February after he complained to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Nevada. Then last Wooten sent a whistleblower email to the U.S. Department of Justice, alleging a widespread pattern of bad judgment, lack of discipline, incredible bias, unprofessionalism, and misconduct, as well as likely policy, ethical and legal violations among senior and supervisory staff at the Bureau of Land Management's Office of Law Enforcement and Security. Wooten wrote that supervisory agents with the Bureau repeatedly mocked the defendants in an amateurish carnival atmosphere that resembled something out of middle school, displayed clear prejudice against the Bundys, their supporters, and Mormons, and prominently displayed degrading altered booking photos of Cliven Bundy and other defendants in a federal office and in an office presentation. The memo described heavy-handedness by government officers as they prepared to impound Cliven Bundy's cattle. He said some officers bragged about roughing up Dave Bundy, grinding his face into the ground, and Dave Bundy having little bits of gravel stuck in his face. Dave Bundy, one of Cliven Bundy's sons, was arrested April 6, 2014, while videotaping men he suspected were federal agents near his father's ranch. Wooten contends that supervisory agents failed to turn over required discovery evidence to the prosecution team that could help the defense or be used to question the credibility of a witness, as required by law. The revelations contained in the memo prompted Cliven Bundy's attorney to file a motion to dismiss the case, which is already in shambles over the government's failure to share evidence with the defense as required by law. Advertisement. Read more, exclusive. Watch cops swarm, arrest innocent man for refusing to say how old he was. The judge subsequently sent the jury home for more than a week in an effort to determine the validity of the claims, as the prosecution scrambled to save their case against the Bundy Ranch defendants. Additionally, lead agents on the case instigated monitoring of jail phone calls without the consent of the U.S. Attorney's Office or the FBI, essentially going rogue, until Nevada's acting U.S. Attorney Stephen Myra, who is leading the prosecution, put an end to the illicit surveillance. The memo by Wooten accused Special Agent in charge of the Bunkerville/Gold Butte operation for the BLM, Dan Love, of intentionally ignoring U.S. Attorney's Office directives and his BLM superiors in order to command the most intrusive, oppressive, large-scale, and militaristic trespass cattle impound possible. The Oregonian reported that Wooten said he learned from other agency supervisors that Love had a kill book as a trophy, in which he essentially bragged about getting 3 individuals in Utah to commit suicide, following a joint FBI-BLM investigation into the alleged trafficking of stolen artifacts. Wooten said his supervisor took photos in a secure command post at FBI headquarters in Las Vegas of an arrest tracking wall, where photos of Cliven Bundy and co-defendant Eric Parker were marked with an X over them, and emailed out the photos, although no photos were allowed to be taken in that area. After the discovery of the extreme corruption, Wooten called prosecutors in the Bundy case and told Myra and Assistant U.S. Attorney Nadia Ahmed, as well as FBI Special Agent Joel Willis, that he believed that supervisors were failing to share important witness statements with them. Read more. FBI just created and foiled their own terrorist plot to demonize those who question government. When Wooten eventually asked Myra if statements made by Love, such as "go out there and kick Cliven Bundy in the mouth, or teeth, and take his cattle," or "I need you to get the troops fired up to go get those cows and not take any crap from anyone," could be construed as evidence that must be shared with the defense. He said that Myra replied by saying "we do now" or "it is now." Only 2 days later Wooten was removed from the investigation by his supervisor. Another BLM agent confiscated files relating to his investigation from his office, including computer hard drives, collected emails, text messages, case notes and lessons learned, Wooten wrote. These items were taken because they contained significant evidence of misconduct and items that would potentially embarrass BLM law enforcement supervision, Wooten's memo noted. "I am convinced that I was removed to prevent the ethical and proper further disclosure of the severe misconduct." According to Wooten, he was told by his supervisor that Myra furiously demanded his removal from the case, and said something regarding the BLM's failure to hand over critical evidence to his office. Myra adopted an attitude of "don't ask, don't tell," or preferred ignorance in regards to information from the BLM that could be helpful to the Bundy defense, according to Wooten. Additionally, he noted the extremely inaccurate talking points used by prosecutors, particularly failing to disclose the fact that BLM sniper teams took up positions around the Bundy Ranch before the standoff on April 12, 2014. Read more. The Real Bundy Ranch Story: The People Forced the Feds to Surrender. Not only did Mr. Myra, in my opinion, not want to know or seek out evidence favorable to the accused, he and my supervisor discouraged the reporting of such issues, Wooten wrote. Wooten claims he respected Myra, but believes his decision-making ability is clouded by personal bias and a desire to win the case at all costs. "I have tried to resolve these issues through my chain of command, but I have failed," Wooten wrote in the memo. He noted that he believed it to be his obligation to report what he had discovered, noting that the memo was a last resort. The trial has been postponed until next Wednesday, as U.S. District Judge Gloria M. Navarro attempts to reconcile numerous concerns about evidence not being shared with the defense. She intimated that if violations are found, potential remedies range from striking witness testimony or delaying the trial, to declaring a mistrial. Cliven Bundy's lawyer Brett O. Whipple described the information contained in the memo as quite a development, one he hadn't seen in his 20-plus years of legal work. "In my mind, I think the case should be dismissed by next Tuesday," Whipple said. "I think I can get my client home for Christmas." The reality is the prosecution has withheld evidence that would have easily exonerated the 19 defendants, but instead, exculpatory evidence was withheld from the defense, which has resulted in the 19 defendants spending the last 2 years behind bars. Please share this damning information to expose the extreme corruption that has taken place in the Bundy case.
Good evening, my friends. I just wanted to do a little video and talk a little bit about what's going on. Obviously there's an uproar about the whistleblower, part of the BLM, that's exposed a lot of truth that we've known about for a long time. We've seen in the discovery. We've been studying it for over a year now, and also we lived it. And so these things are something that are not a surprise to us by any means, in any way. We told people that there were snipers on the hill, that they were threatening our families, that their crosshairs were on us. We told them they had surveillance equipment, high-tech surveillance equipment with lasers pointed at our front door. We didn't know what it was about, but we knew that that was happening. And all of these things have been covered up by the government. We've actually several times, many times throughout this year, have requested information on it, and they've denied it and said things like we were going on a fishing expedition trying to get information and say there was things that really wasn't, and then we find out sure enough that they were. The discovery clearly shows that the prosecutor, Stephen Myrie, did everything he could to cover up that there was snipers. He even had BLM agents come back in a year later and re-clarify their testimony to say that they didn't act as a spotter or they didn't act as a sniper. And these are the things that were going on. We see them in the discovery, and it's primarily done by the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I believe Steve Myrie was a huge player in this. We also see where they just lied over and over and over to the grand jury. We've seen this for years, for the time we've been in prison, for the almost 2 years. And it's been very frustrating to us to see it, because we know that it was a lie. We see that it was a lie. We see that they lied to the grand jury over and over and over again, that they created this narrative, and then they tried to sculpture the discovery to follow the narrative. And it was a lie. It was a lie from the beginning. And so it feels really good to actually have somebody from their side, the inside, a whistleblower, to actually say these things. But they're not a surprise to us by any means. And so, and I could go into great detail, about how they were a militarized unit, how they followed a militarized procedures. They said they were a militarized units. They had drones up in the sky, high enough you couldn't even see them. They had crosshairs up on our family's home, and off to the side you see in the videos with the drone crosshairs and all the other technology that's on this drone. And over on the side you see where it says arm or disarm, and that's what they had on our family's home. And they also had it on the protesters, and they had it on the protest site, and it had infrared technology, it had night vision technology, and then of course it was capable to view very closely from a long ways away. And that's just a very touch of what the technology and what they were doing to an American family on American soil. And that's why people came. They felt that this was wrong, and now it's good to see that now America is seeing that it was wrong. Again, I could go into great detail about what's in the discovery, what's not in the discovery that we know that should be, what's been withheld, and who did it. And it was the Bureau of Land Management, the FBI as well. And just as a side note, when it's talked about Clive and Bundy and the other people's pictures on the wall, and then they got X's through them, the BLM took a picture of that and then posted it all over, laughing and enjoying that. But where were they at when they took a picture of it? They were in the FBI's office. So it was the FBI that had the pictures up there and had the X's in them. Completely inappropriate. And then the BLM to be able to just post it around and do all those things like life is nothing. Like my father's life is nothing. Like Eric Parker's life is nothing. Well, I'm here to tell you that life is worth something. Dr. Red's life was worth something. And the way to just treat life like that, like it means nothing, is just completely inappropriate. However, the main point of my video here is not because of that. My point is because I'm afraid that we're going to lose a touch of what's really happening, what really has happened here. Because we have an unconstitutional land agency a federal agency, and it's not just the land agencies, but I'm going to just stick to that, coming down inside the states and literally putting its people in fear and forcing the states into undue obedience, forcing us, the people, into undue obedience. And when we allow that to happen, and we don't hold them accountable, and we have no way to hold them accountable, and why? Why don't we have a way to hold Dan Love accountable? Why don't we have a way to hold these people accountable? Because they're outside of the authority that they're acting. They're usurping it. There's no way to hold them accountable. You can't vote them in, you can't vote them out. You can't defund them. You can't do anything with them because they're not supposed to be here. These lands and all of these issues are supposed to be handled on a county and a state level. And for them to come in and insert themselves and use force and intimidation to tax us to death and take it up to Washington, D.C. and then dangle it over our heads, saying that if you don't do this, we're not going to fund you. If you don't do that, we're not going to fund you. And if you do this, we will fund you. Completely controlling the people and literally forcing us into undue obedience. What do you think is going to happen when we go away from the founding principles that built this nation? What do you think is going to happen? This is what happens. Until we get back to the principles that are outlined in the Constitution, until we stand on those principles, we cannot be free. And it will happen over and over again. And I guarantee it's happening in the Department of Justice, in the FBI, in the Department of Education, in every department of the federal government, because there is no accountability. And we can't make them accountable. But on a county level, we could get them out. On a state level, we can hold them accountable. And that's the issue here, and we cannot lose sight of that. It's not that we go to Washington, D.C. and, boy, we reprimand the BLM. Boy, we got to straighten them out to make sure they follow their procedures and regulations and their statutes right. No, it's that they should not be in our states, period. And as long as they are, we're in danger. As long as they are, we can't use our lands and resources, and it'll throw us completely into poverty. You cannot live without the land. You cannot survive without the water. And they have deliberately and intentionally and deceptively, over years, over decades, taken the land, taken the water and the resources and the minerals away from the people. Until we wonder why we're all struggling to make a living. We have to wake up. We have to get back to those principles that keep us free and keep us happy and keep us prosperous. We have to. I don't want to leave this country. I want to stay right here. I love this land. I love this people. I love freedom. But unless we insist and enforce the principles that are found in the Constitution, and that the principles that we built this nation upon, unless we enforce those principles, we cannot be free. And my children will not be able to even enjoy what I've enjoyed. And that's not good enough for me. I do not want my sons to struggle to feed their families because some federal government is in business for themselves. I want my grandchildren to enjoy the freedom that my grandparents enjoyed. And they cannot do that if they can't go out on the land and produce. They cannot do that if everything they make goes to the federal government in taxes, or any government. They should be able to keep the fruits of their labors and give it to their children and provide for their wives and build homes and not in debt. So keep the perspective correct. Of course the Bureau of Land Management did this. Of course they did. That's what happens when you don't hold people accountable, when you can't hold people accountable. That's what happens when they're unlimited. When they believe they have full control and full power. That's what happens. So of course there's a kill list. Of course you got them, you know, plotting to destroy a family that stands up against them. Of course you do. And the only way to make it right is to hold them to the limitations that are found in the Constitution that we the people set upon them. And that goes across the board. What in the world are they doing in our states? Implementing health care, implementing land control, implementing the environment regulations, education. What are they doing? The people need to do that themselves within their counties and within their cities and within their states. The federal government needs to go do their jobs that's outlined in the Constitution. It's very clear. And beyond that, they have no power. Beyond that, they have no power. And if we allow them to step across those bounds, which we have, they will abuse it. Thank you.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head, help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.